What is going on, guys? Citizen JB, and today we're going to be talking about Bioshock 2. I just recently finished a video commentary on Bioshock 1 not too long ago, and I hope it goes really, really well in the algorithm on my YouTube channel, and hopefully we get some really nice views out of it, and maybe some good comments or questions that anybody might have. But anyways, so much further ado, let's delve right into Bioshock 2 here, and I'm going to put a little bit of a disclaimer, as it were. Bioshock 2 does not have a New Game Plus. And the reason why it kind of gets me that they didn't do that, because I really thoroughly enjoyed Bioshock 2 quite a bit. But I did, however, enjoy Bioshock 1 a little bit more than Bioshock 2. But however, I think what Bioshock 2 really does something uniquely different, other than from what Bioshock 1 did, is in fact that you get to play as a Big Daddy. I think playing as a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2 is really, really cool. It's a little cathartic in a unique way, and it's a little dark in that aspect though too, because I love that type of concept, especially if you're going into a different type of similar realm, like in Rapture, where the first one took place. This one takes place in Rapture as well. But, you know, I think playing as Big Daddy in Bioshock 2 really does... Obviously, it plays very similar to what Bioshock 1 did. We already know that. But the only difference is between Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2, however, is in fact, like I said, you get to play as a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2. That's the only difference, in Bioshock 2. But overall, I still think that this game is absolutely stunning. It's absolutely amazing. I really think that Bioshock 2 delivered in so many unique and cool different ways from what Bioshock 1 did in terms of its world building. You know, I talked about the writing, the concept of it, you know, the aesthetic of the world of Rapture itself, and how it really combines along with, you know, the storytelling, along with some of the progression, whatever characters that you that you meet or go up against. Even like the splicers. The splicers are always going to have a unique way of telling you unique kind of story to how this world worked, how it fell before a fall, and all that kind of and that sort of thing, and it's very, very cool. However, there is a book, and I know it's part of the Bioshock world, and I really can't recall what the name of it was, but it was basically the you know, like the utopian city of Rapture underneath the water, of course, and it talked about more about the world of itself in the book, and basically before of how it fell into such hard times, and why this place fell, and why the splicers came to be. Because initially in the first one, before the splicers came to be, and they were all hocked up on plasmids and stuff, you know, making them very grotesque and ugly looking. But however, that's where the book falls in. It really tells a unique, different story of how it just made it so different from what Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 did in regards to that storytelling, involving that world concept and everything else in between. And I think that's what's really cool. I love that. You know, and like I said, I fall under the same three principles as I previously mentioned in my commentary video on Bioshock 1, to where there are three different rules, especially when it comes to video games in particular, but I always feel like it falls under when it comes to the movie genre as well. It has to do with the story, world building, the acting or the voiceover, and then the director. You know, basically the helm of all helms, that, you know, basically knowing what they want to do in terms to make a really good game go round. You know, make it full force, and knowing what they want to do with it and how it's going to perpetually be more involved into the world of Rapture, or like the Matrix, for example, or like or any kind of game that has like a saga to it, you know, like or like Alien trilogy or the Alien quadrilogy or whatever it's called. And so that's where I'm saying about that. But anyways, now what I really think what made Bioshock 2, you know, like I say, you know, not just unique of playing as a Big Daddy, but it's a really type of it's a whole new world in a certain way, to where even though Bioshock 2 still falls under the same Utopia, you know, in Rapture, you know, it's still similar and familiar. But overall, like I said, the only difference is that you are playing as a prototype of a Big Daddy. And so that's where I feel where Bioshock 2 really falls in line of how unique and how different the game still feels, even though it is similar to that of the first Bioshock. And that's important to me, and not just important to me, but I think that's what's really thoroughly important when it comes to games like this, you know, games of that genre. And, you know, of it being an FPS role-playing game as it is. And I think that's where this game really falls under. And that's just really cool to me. And it's the science fiction of it. And, you know, I believe that's where the first one did, though, too. It did a really good job of its science fiction theme and fantasy theme overall. And that's why I said in my video for Bioshock 1 as well too. It's like I said, it's dark, it's foreboding, it's cathartic, it's creepy, and you know, Bioshock 2 really still stems from that. I really think it really does, and it's just so cool as to why in my personal opinion, why Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 are my favorite two Bioshocks in the trilogy. I did, however, like Bioshock Infinite to a certain extent, but it just didn't feel it just didn't feel of what I wanted to feel like, of what Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 did for me. Not just as a gamer, but when it comes to single-player games in general, I really think that I want to see games like this again. You know, much like I previously mentioned in my commentary video for Bioshock 1 about pre-2017 as well. That game did an excellent job of its world building, of its structure, and the way how the progression system worked in terms of its story systems, its gameplay mechanic systems, and overall aesthetic and concept of, you know, going through the world of that game, much like Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 does with the audio lock system. I think that's a really good way of a really good job of doing that world building and doing that system of knowing what it wants to do. And I think that's where pre-2017, Bioshock 2, and Bioshock 1 do magnificently well at. But that's just my own personal opinion. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the playing as a Big Daddy. I think playing as a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2, it's badass. I have to admit it, because, you know, you do, however, in Bioshock 1 become a Big Daddy with Jack. But it's not the same to what it does, what Bioshock 2 does. I think when you play as the prototype of Big Daddy in Bioshock 2, it just feels... How can I say it? It just feels so different from how you played as a Big Daddy with Jack in Bioshock 1. Because you have the drill, you have the suit, you have... Obviously, you have the plasmids, you know, like from the first one. Oh my god, I can't talk today. Sorry about that. And so I think that's where Bioshock 2 really sets the bar of, you know, not just with that different gameplay aesthetic and mechanic, but it's just the fact that when you play as a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2, you get these really cool, unique weapons that the Big Daddies have always been known to be able to use. You know, like the rivet gun or the drill. And, you know, you do, however, get other different weapon attachments as well to play with. To my personal opinion, though, I really love the rivet gun. I think the rivet gun is one of my top favorites playing as a Big Daddy in Bioshock 2. But, however, the drill really makes it more unique because you're using it in a very different type of combat style, to where you can drill the enemies if you want to. You can do that. However, you can do melee with it, though, too. But, I mean, you were able to only melee with one thing in the first Bioshock, which was the wrench. And, you know, obviously you're not going to be very good with it. But either or, you understand where I'm going with this and what I'm trying to really initially trying to tell of why I think Bioshock 2 just does a lot of things better from what the first one did. Or didn't do. You know, that's just my personal preference on that, or opinion. So, point being. Now, I love the way how Bioshock 2 really feels in terms, you know, going beyond that world building from the first one. And how it just really influences the way how Bioshock really defined that concept, that Utopia, the city underneath under the water, Rapture, right? And that's what really makes Bioshock 2 so cool. And like I said, it does play in a way, it kind of does feel a little bit different, but it's still similar to that of the first Bioshock. But to me, it feels like it's a good thing, because I rarely ever see games that really do different from that of the first game of a trilogy or whatnot. But I know it sounds a little cryptic, so my bad on that. But however, I just think that Bioshock 2 did a really good job of what it wanted to do with its storytelling. You know, playing as that Big Daddy. You know, and it has to do with the little sisters though too. The little sisters have come back in the second one as well, and so it's and that's another thing I kind of want to touch base with here too, is that what I've also noticed when I played Bioshock 2 more than once is that when you play as the prototype Big Daddy, is that however you will be able to interact with the little sisters. And you have that fatherly type of concept between the Big Daddy and the little sister. There's like a little bit of a family thing involved. And it's the fact that, you know, Big Daddies are the protectors of the world of Rapture. They protected the little sisters. They protected more so of the city itself, because they were, like I said, they are the protectors of that dystopian world. And I think that's what's really cool of that type of concept and aspect of that, of playing as the Big Daddy in Bioshock 2. But however, what I will say is that the enemies in Bioshock 2 are not as... They do feel the same from what Bioshock 1 did, but there are some different enemies as well once you get further into the game. And there is one in particular, if I remember correctly, there is... He's like more of a bulkier, bigger dude. And he's really tough to beat, so you have to be very, very careful of how you're going to go up against him. But however, all I can say is that, like I said, with Bioshock 2, it's similar, but the only thing that's different is the fact that you play as a Big Daddy. I know I always go back to this, but I believe that's the crux when it comes to Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2. Bioshock 2 specifically. So, overall... all I can say is this. I do highly recommend playing Bioshock 2. I think Bioshock 2 does a really good job of what it wants to do. It does not have an identity crisis like most games I have played. And, you know, much like the Assassin's Creed games, you know, obviously I'm doing a little bit of an unfair comparison here. But, you know, I think Assassin's Creed Origins did a better balance of, you know, reinventing the newer franchise, as it were. But like I said, I'm just veering off topic. I was just doing a little bit of comparison there, a little bit. But I think when it comes to Bioshock 2, you know, going back to that Big Daddy concept of, you know, you're this hulking thing. You're protecting the little sisters from not being attacked from splicers. And, you know, basically what I'm saying is that this game definitely still falls under the similarities from what the first one did. But like I said, the only thing that I've always constantly said is that you just only play as a Big Daddy. You do get all the same different... You do get the majority of the same plasmids from the first one. But overall, I think playing as a Big Daddy on Bioshock 2 just really, really... makes it not just similar to, but it makes it a little bit more fun, in my personal opinion. Now, going back to the New Game Plus mode, like I said, I do really hope that they would have put it in Bioshock 2, but it's amazing why they didn't. Because, like I said, you know, they do have New Game Plus in the first Bioshock, and, you know, that's the reason why I only play Bioshock 1 quite a bit more than Bioshock 2 is because of New Game Plus. But overall, I just think that I think that they could have put it in there, in my personal opinion, but either or, I'm not going to worry about it anymore, so we'll just go venture off from there. Now, all I can say is this. Play this game. Like I said, I do recommend it. You know, like I said, it still plays similar to that of the first one, but overall, you're playing, it's the same exact world, but sometimes it will only feel a little bit different to certain aspects and concepts of the game. The world building is still there, like from the first one and everything, and vice versa. So that's all I can say about that. But anyways, too much further ado, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to reply back if and whenever possible. This is Citizen JV, and you guys have a good rest of your weekend.